Meta's last down day as a stock was all the way back in the Biden administration.
Crazy.
Couple weeks. But Meta has never been down under the Donald Trump administration. And maybe that's the point, because some suggest that Mark Zuckerberg's transformation from really a guy that wanted to keep his head down during COVID to an in-your-face CEO-based Zuck is one of the reasons that Facebook, Meta, has been on a run. Let's talk about it all and what exactly is going on with Stephen Levy. He is the editor at Wired at Large, or editor at large at Wired. I just gave you like a weird new promotion. Stephen, thank you. And author of Facebook, The Inside Story, and Shira Frankel, tech reporter at the New York Times and author of An Ugly Truth, Inside Facebook's Battle for Domination. So this is a hell of a story. Stephen, I'm going to start with you because they were moving. I called it their new Coke moment. You got to be of a certain age to know what that even means. But you know what I'm talking about. They changed their name to Meta. They talked about the metaverse. You could buy, fake land with real money. That seems to have completely vanished. I don't know what the company is now. Maybe you do. And why it's suddenly red hot.
Yeah, well, there's a few reasons. One is the metaverse thing, which, people mocked. But they actually wound up coming out of that with a pretty decent growing business with, instead of big heavy headsets, which they still make, with glasses, which give you internet, the Ray-Ban glasses, which are pretty popular. But I think the biggest change in the company is they're still raking it in on social media while trying to get past all the problems they had with the content there. And that happens to align Mark Zuckerberg with the Trump administration, which for years had been urging it to, do what they call free expression, which means, basically let all misinformation flow on that. And Mark has not only embraced that, but he's embraced sort of like the manliness aspect, the manosphere thing of the Trump administration too, because he feels that he's beyond the criticism. He doesn't really worry about it anymore.
And Sharon, that's it. And who do you think is the real Mark Zuckerberg? Because I don't know.
Well, I think people close to Mark Zuckerberg see that the version of him who's out in the public now, showing off his interests in sports, showing off his interest in fighting, in the various sort of outfits we've seen him in. That's the real Mark Zuckerberg, and they say that's who he's always been. That in his early 20s, when he left Harvard and sort of started this company, that he was this version of himself, and that he was convinced for many years to be a quieter version, to sort of find the middle ground, to reach out to the American people, to be apologetic for mistakes his company made, and that he's now really come full circle to some of his sort of his origin story, as it was.
So I'm curious. I was going to say, Shira, about the stock. I mean, from investors' point of view, the reason why AI has been so transformative is almost this kind of, businessy thing of they get to optimize ad load, right? They can figure out the algorithms better. They can deliver better ads for you. They can command higher dollars. And yes, they're doing a lot of other things, in the works as well. But that's what it really comes down to, right?
Well, I mean, anyone out here in Silicon Valley has got to put AI into their pitch at the moment if they're trying to sell their company. We've heard Meta discuss how AI is going to solve everything for them, from removing misinformation, disinformation from the platform, helping them sort through hate speech, improving ad revenue goals. AI is the hot buzzword, but I think part of the reason that Meta specifically is doing so well right now is really Mark Zuckerberg's ability to align himself with Trump, to appear publicly with Trump, and to show the public that some of those trust concerns, some of the concerns that Meta had as a company in Washington, D.C. aren't going to exist in the Trump administration.
And by the way, we lost Stephen, hoping to get him back. But Shira, so we'll stay with you. I get that, I guess. But what I'm trying to understand is, and I know you're not a stock person, don't worry, you don't have to answer it directly. But how does that benefit the stock? The stock's up 12 sessions in a row. That's what we talk about. How does aligning with Trump further Meta's interests as a business? Maybe it has something to do with TikTok's future?
It could be. It could be that people are looking at Meta and saying, right, well, Mark Zuckerberg is close to the Trump administration. He's not going to have the same sort of antitrust concerns in Washington, D.C. He's not going to face congressional hearings and fines for some of the problems on his platform. And Trump could force TikTok to still sell. I mean, the main sort of threat to Meta as a company has been TikTok. And if that's off the table, then the growth for Meta going forward could be unprecedented.